Jews out of the country, and some of the people, Harry and Phil, in a funeral of Scharia Haber, one of the soldiers who was killed last night. So the learning now is
Where are they from?
he's from I think Jerusalem. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where he's from.
Right.
But he actually has a cousin in the neighborhood, so he's connected a bit to people here in the neighborhood. So learning today is the Ilun Shmat, the soldier who was killed. All the soldiers who were killed, especially Haber. Yeah. I didn't know him personally, but some of the people from the group, from the learning together, they knew him, so they are now in the funeral. Yeah. Bill.
BT Hachal Ishtal.
No, him. He knew the family, so Harry also isn't here. Yeah. Oh, so we have Sotavot and the world of learning Bili Nishmatam. What's his name? Fuat. Abba Yirmiyahu Ben Krendel. Hashem send him refuah shlema.
Hashem should just do what he thinks is best.
Yeah. Okay, so we have one topic which we.
It's not.
I'm not sure. I can check. I'm not sure.
He was living in Yerushalayim.
I'm not sure.
They were living in Yerushalayim.
I know, with the family.
Yeah. We learned last week about making tea on Shabbat, Kli Sheni. We discussed the definition of a Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni, Kli Shlishi. We discussed something called Kalei Bishul, something which cooks very, very fast. Maybe tea might be something which cooks fast. And we said that many people make tea essence on Friday and use it on Shabbat. So we left with how do we use tea essence on Shabbat?
Is it preferable?
So tea essence, there's no problem.
Less of bishul than putting in the tea bag?
There's less of a bishul. Why? Because you cook it on Friday already. So what happens if it's cool? Okay, what happens if it's cool?
When you pour hot water with Rishon, you're in fact cooking it.
Okay, so let's discuss the
Any other drop that's left in the water
Yeah.
that's left in the cup pour hot water.
Okay, so let's discuss the tea essence on Shabbat. First, the best thing to do with tea essence is to keep it on the platter the whole night. Why? It's warm. There's no problem with cooking it. I think we mentioned, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that there's a machloket between the Rishonim. Is there a problem with warming up on Shabbat liquids? Okay, there's a machloket between the Rishonim. According to the Rambam, and that's how many of the Temanim hold, as soon as I cooked liquid, there's no problem in warming it up again on Shabbat. And that actually has a lot of influence to what we'll be learning today. So according to the Rambam, even if the tea essence cooled down, you can heat it up again. Clear, so it doesn't matter. There's no rishul in it again. Most poskim, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch at least, his poskim. Otherwise, that with liquids, if it's cooled down, there's a problem in heating it up again on Shabbat. Because
A lot of sauce and gravy.
food process, a lot of sauce. Why? Because the definition of cooking for solids is what changes in the solid. Like the potato became now softer, and you can eat it. For liquids, the what makes it special is the temperature. For example, soup. It's winter now. After Kabbalat Shabbat and Arvit, we go home, and what do we want? Hot soup, right? Hot chicken soup. What happens if the chicken soup is cold? Will you eat it? No. Why not? The whole purpose of a soup is for it to be hot, right? So liquids, we look at also that something in the temperature defines it as something different. Okay, you can have cold cuts, you can have cold chicken, you can eat cold rice. Maybe it tastes a bit different, but you can have it. You do it on a picnic. You won't usually take to a picnic and have cold chicken soup. Okay, I'll call it. Okay, so that's that's according to the Shulchan Aruch. The Rama does something in between. He says if it was boiled before Shabbat and it's still warm, you can heat it up again on Shabbat. Okay, so many Ashkenazim won't put the tea essence on the plata itself. They will put it on above the urn, so it will stay warm. It won't be hot. It will stay warm. Is it healthy? Not healthy? Don't ask me. I'm not going into that. Okay, how's with having something for 24 hours which is about 50 degrees? I'm not sure how healthy it is, but I'm not sure how dangerous it is also. Okay, how? And because the germs can, yeah, right, because when it's that temperature, the germs can multiply faster. So according to the Ashkenazim, if it is warm, there's no problem. Put it in a kli sheni, that's fine. Even according to Sfaradim, you won't put it in a kli rishon, okay? But a kli sheni, you could put it in already. Okay, you can take the tea essence and put it in a kli sheni. Even according to Sfaradim, kli sheni is fine. Okay, it doesn't cook it so much. You can take the liquid when it's cold. Okay, you can put it in a kli sheni. Don't put it in a kli rishon. Don't pour from kli rishon on it, but in a kli sheni that you can put it. Okay, that's so that's about tea essence.
Right. So is it better to have tea bags or tea essence?
So
It strikes me
is
that
it
it's
better?
better to
Is it
have
better?
tea
It
bags.
seems like that the machmirim will go by tea essence. Okay,
No, that's
machmirim
gonna produce more complications. You have to keep it warm.
have to keep it warm. But then if it's cold, even you can put it in a kli sheni. But
Oh, that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, you
And the
don't
problem
see-
with tea essence is that you can have only one kind of tea, and if a tea bags, you can just decide what you want. Okay, so many poskim are makel, and people who are makel with tea bags, lichora, they can be somewhere on the poskim who are makel. Many poskim are makel. Igrot Moshe, we mentioned a few poskim. My son told me he just heard a shir that Rav Rabinovich Zatzal, for himself, he used to make tea essence, but for his students, he used to say, you can use tea bags on Shabbat. Okay, so that's for many poskim. So now we are ending up the topic of tea. And we're going back to Shin Yud Chet 318, and we're going to the beginning of the Siman. We're starting a new topic called Maaseh Shabbat. That's how it's called, Maaseh Shabbat, which is something that was done on Shabbat. Okay, something that was done on Shabbat by a Jew. Okay, so it's actually interesting that if a non-Jew does something, we can sometimes be more makel, more lenient, and sometimes we are more stringent. Okay, why do you think we can be more lenient if a non-Jew does something on Shabbat? What's the reason to be more lenient?
The non-Jew does it?
Yeah,
Amir Alakum.
Amir Alakum. Okay, it's midorabanan. It's not midoraita, right? I didn't do anything. For him, it's permitted. The only problem was me telling him something to do. Okay, so that's a reason to be maybe more lenient. What's the reason to be more stringent?
Did you benefit?
I'm benefiting, and what else? People will say, yeah, it's a non-Jew. I can just tell him and ask him. People, everything's permitted, right? It's a non-Jew. I can just ask, call a non-Jew. The fire turned out, no problem. Call a non-Jew. You want to smoke? Call a non-Jew. He'll turn on the cigarette. Just call a non-Jew, and everything's fine. So people will
You legitimize.
right. So just do everything. If you want to do, just call a non-Jew. So in some places we are more stringent. Okay, Amira Lakum, we mentioned it a few times. It's permitted if it is first for a mitzvah. There's some need, some mitzvah, and second, if it's violating something which is midirabanan, which is rabbinical. Okay, so if it's for a mitzvah and he's doing something which is rabbinical, he can do it. Otherwise, he can't do it. Let's take an example. According to many poskim, turning on these lights is rabbinical. Okay, midirabanan. We come to shul Friday night. You want to daven? It's dark in shul. Okay, it's dark in shul. Is there mitzvah in having light in shul?
It's practical. You
Right?
can't
Okay, obviously there's a mitzvah in having light in shul, right? according to many poskim, turning on the lights, we said, is rabbinical. So that's called telling a non-Jew, one rabbinical issue, to do a rabbinical melacha on Shabbat for the need of a mitzvah. So that he can do. That I can do. But now, let's say we don't have a tzorech mitzvah. Okay, I'm just sitting down and there's no mitzvah here at all. Okay, no mitzvah at all. And I want to read the newspaper, okay, with the economic newspaper. No mitzvah in reading it on Shabbat. Can I read it? That's a different question. But okay, now it's dark here. Can I ask the non-Jewish person to turn on the light for me? No. Even hinting. If he did it for me and only for me, I can't benefit from it on Shabbat. Even if if he did it for me, I can't benefit from it on Shabbat. If he did it for himself, I can get benefit from it. Okay? If he also wants to read the newspaper, he wants to sit down with me and do the comics. Okay, read the comics. So since he's turning on the light for himself, he's not doing it for me, he's doing it for himself, I can benefit from what he did. Okay? If a non-Jewish person did for me something, let's say he baked for me bread, well, without going to the kashrut problems of it. He baked for me bread on Shabbat. Okay, I turned the oven on Friday, and I can see exactly what he's doing. Everything is kosher. He baked for me bread on Shabbat. Can I eat it on Shabbat? No. After Shabbat, can I eat it?
Maaseh Shabbat.
Maaseh Shabbat. A non-Jewish person did. After Shabbat, can I eat it? The answer will be yes, but. Okay? Exactly. You have to wait what is called in halacha bichdei sheyasu. The amount of time it takes to make the bread, wait for it after Shabbat. Let's say make the bread, it takes 2 hours. Until the flour, you mix it up, you knead the dough, and then it needs to rise and bake. It takes 2 hours to make. Shabbos goes out at 6 o'clock. When can I have the bread? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Why are we so stringent? Because people very easily ask a non-Jewish person, can you please make for me bread on Shabbat? And then Shabbat loses its atmosphere. So Chazal said, since people are so easy on asking a non-Jewish person to do for them something, if he did something for a Jewish person, you have to wait after Shabbat b'chdei sheyasu. Okay, the amount of time it takes to make it. And now we are moving to a Jewish person. So you tell me, before we go in, why is the melacha done by a Jewish person more stringent? Why should we be more stringent on Shabbat? A Jewish person did it. He violated Shabbat. Exactly. Why is there a reason to be more lenient?
He did it for himself.
He did it for himself. Still, a non-Jewish person did something. So why should we be more lenient on some aspects at least? If I need something, I'll go now and ask my non-Jewish neighbor to do for me something on Shabbat. There's a chance I'll do it. Is there a chance am I likely to go and ask a Jewish person to do for me something on Shabbat? No? I'm not allowed to ask him, exactly. I'm not allowed to ask him. And I typically will not do it, okay? Because I know he's a Jewish person. You can't ask a Jewish person to do for you something on Shabbat. So people will be more careful in asking a Jewish person. So we can see there's a reason to be more stringent and a reason to be more lenient. And after that, let's go into the halacha. Actually, let's go to the Gemara. The Gemara brings 3 opinions about Maaseh Shabbat done by a non-Jewish person. By a Jewish person. When a Jewish person did something on Shabbat. We won't get you confused with all the opinions. I'll just tell you an idea of one of the opinions and then another opinion. Okay? There's one opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka that if a Jewish person cooked on Shabbat, from the Torah, one of the opinions in the Gemara, from the Torah you aren't allowed to benefit from it on Shabbat. Kodesh hu lachem. Shabbat is like Kodesh, like a korban. If something was done on Shabbat, by Torah law, you can't eat it now on Shabbat. So if my neighbor barbecued and made a steak, I can smell the steak, you can't eat it, not on Shabbat, not afterwards, that's it. Okay? You can't eat it. Okay, and it's from the Torah, it's not rabbinical. We aren't poskin like this opinion. Okay, we are poskin like it's midrabanan, it's rabbinical, and we are even more lenient. But it's just interesting to know that according to one opinion in the by Tanaim and the Gemara, it's so important that midoraita you can't eat it. Okay, it's something which was cooked on Shabbat, midoraita you can't eat it. When I was in one of the bases, so the soldiers were busy all the week. The only time they're free was Shabbat. So we used to have a special rule that religious families can come and visit on Fridays, and the soldiers will get time on Friday to see their families. But the non-religious people will come on Shabbat. So outside of the base, there was a ton of smoke every Shabbat and the smell of barbecues, and they wanted to give to the friends, because one of the important things in the army is that a friendship. So even if they aren't Shomer Shabbat, they really wanted to bring to the friends, and the families many times would keep kosher and would make sure to bring kosher food. Why? For the friends. It was very important for them. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, you can't eat it. You can't eat it. We'll get soon to other opinions. Okay, but that's just important to know how something which is
done for their sake. It's done for.
So exactly, we'll get to it. Okay, we'll get to it. There's two other opinions which are more makel. They hold this the Rabbanan, and the Shulchan Aruch is paskin like the middle opinion. And since I said I don't want to go to all the details, so we won't get lost with the details, let's go according to the Shulchan Aruch. And obviously, the Shulchan Aruch differentiates, or the Gemara and the Tanaim differentiate between Mezid and Shogeg. Mezid, something which is done on purpose. Obviously, we should be quite stringent with it. And Shogeg, if it was done by mistake. Okay, so Mezid and Shogeg. So we're going to learn the basic, and maybe next week we'll have to continue all sorts of different details when we can be even more lenient compared to what we learned. Okay, so today our goal is to learn the basic. And if we have time, we'll continue. If not, so we'll see next week, B'ezrat Hashem, other cases where we can be more lenient. So say the Shulchan Aruch. And I'm going to read it. Hamvashel b'Shabbat, someone who cooks on Shabbat. And the Rama adds, and that's obviously everyone agrees with it, doesn't mean necessary cooking, any melacha which was done on Shabbat. Okay, I build a table. I build a table. I'll show you a question, which I was shocked to see the question. A true question from somewhere not in Israel, okay, somewhere else. I think it's from the States, I'm not sure. The Sofer Stam was working on a Sefer Torah for many, many months. And the Achnasat Sefer Torah was supposed to be, I'm not sure if it was supposed to be on Motzei Shabbat or Sunday. And on Friday, he didn't work so much. And all of a sudden on Shabbat, he realizes, I need to finish the Sefer Torah by Motzei Shabbat. Okay, and what happens when the family comes and sees that the Sefer Torah isn't ready? Okay, what will they do? I've been working for a whole year. I'm not sure how much the Sefer Torah cost today, $50,000, or I'm not sure how much it is. I'm supposed to get paid, and they'll be very so upset. What did he do? Write on Shabbat. He wrote the Torah on Shabbat. And Rav Rimon was asked, what do we do with the Sefer Torah? Is it kosher or not kosher? And is it kosher for everyone, including the Sofer? Or maybe the Sofer can't get any benefit from it? And there's another question. Next time, will you order from the Sofer? And I think the answer will be, I'm not so sure we'll order from the Sofer again. Okay? But let's read the Shulchan Aruch, and let's try to answer this question. Okay, he wrote a Sefer Torah on Shabbat for himself, right? Can other people benefit from it? Can they read this Torah on Shabbat? No, obviously not on that Shabbat. The next Shabbat, okay, the next week, or no. Okay, they can't read it. And what about the Sofer? So let's read the Shulchan Aruch. Hamashel Shabbat, someone who cooks on Shabbat and doesn't necessarily mean cook, any other melacha, for example, like writing. Says the Shulchan Aruch, b'mezid, he knew it's Shabbat, and he knew that you aren't supposed to cook or to write on Shabbat. So, asur lo leolam. For him, it is forbidden forever. Okay, if someone cooked b'mezid on Shabbat a steak, and then he froze it, after a month, he opens the freezer and says, here's a steak I cooked on Shabbat. Can he eat it? No. Okay, so the Sofer, after a week, okay, that finished the Achnasat Sefer Torah, can he read from the Torah? No. He can't enjoy it. ולאחרים, and to other people, says the Shulchan Aruch. What about the others? Okay, the ones who מותר למוצאי שבת מיד. They can benefit on מוצאי Shabbat right away. Okay, so the other people who ordered the Sefer Torah, can they read from the Torah next Shabbos? Yes. The Shulchan Aruch says, לאחרים, מותר למוצאי שבת מיד. There's something interesting here. We said that if a non-Jew does something, how long do we need to wait after Shabbat? So, the amount of time it takes to make it. So let's say we said bread, it takes 2 hours to make bread. He baked on Shabbat, a non-Jewish person. Shabbat finishes at 6. We can eat the bread only at 8. If a Jewish person baked bread on Shabbat, and let's say we know it's kosher, when can we eat the bread? Motzei Shabbos right away, miyad, right away. And why is that? Because we won't go now and ask a Jewish person to do for us something. And therefore, since in any case we aren't going to ask him if he can do it for us, so we can enjoy it, benefit from it right after Shabbat. So we discussed mezid. Mezid, for that person, it's asur. He's forbidden to enjoy it forever. For other people, right away. Okay, they can enjoy it right away. So that's interesting. Hana'ah looks like hana'ah is permitted. Like you can benefit from it, but you can't enjoy that thing itself. Like if you give it a present to someone, that's fine. But benefit, to enjoy from that thing itself, that's a problem. For example, he can sell it. Okay, he can't eat it, but he can sell it. Okay, now shogeg. It's also a true story. Once there was a group of people. It was in the United States. So if he's a baker, hope we'll get to it hopefully soon. If that is his profession, we'll get to it soon. Okay? We'll just learn about shogeg. I was once with a group of Israelis in the United States, and on Yom Tov Sheni, on the second day of Yom Tov, one of them forgot it's the second day of Yom Tov. He forgot it because he's not used to it. So he took the car and drove on Shabbat, and all of a sudden, someone told him, it's second day of Yom Tov, what are you doing? It's okay, whoops, he parked the car and went out. So it's really, there's a machloket about it. We have to do not, for sure, if they're next to a community, next to a Jewish community, they aren't allowed to drive on Shabbat. If they're out of the community, okay, they're a kilometer more than out of the tchum, then more lenient. But in the community itself, doing something in public, that's for sure you're not allowed to do. But let's say it wasn't the second day of Yom Tov. Let's say it's the first day of Yom Tov or Shabbos itself. Someone forgot it's Shabbat. It can happen, especially I think during COVID. We woke up. What day is it today? 8 days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm not sure. I've been at the home for 2 months. I'm not sure what day it is. It's some kind of day, right? Even in the war, especially when I was in the army, you mix up with the days. You're not sure what day that's. I'm wearing green clothes. You forget sometimes. I've been here for a few days, and okay, you forget sometimes what day it is. So a person by shogeg, he cooked on Shabbat, and then after he finished cooking, he said, "Oh no, what did I just do? I made this nice stew of meat, and when I finished doing it, he realized it's Shabbat. Can he enjoy it or no? Nice shogeg. He did it with shogeg, so obviously we'll be more lenient." Says the Shulchan Aruch, on Shabbat itself, no one is allowed to eat it. Okay, no one is allowed to eat it. But after Shabbat, everyone, including the person who cooked, is allowed to eat it. And that, I think, makes sense, right? It makes sense halacha. Since it's a shogeg, so we'll be more lenient after Shabbat. Okay, so that's the basic halacha. The difference between shogeg and mezid, and difference between shogeg and mezid, and difference between the person himself and other people. So if it's a shogeg, if it's a mistake, no one's allowed to eat it on Shabbat. After Shabbat, everyone can eat it. If it's done by purpose, the person himself who cooks on Shabbat isn't allowed to benefit from it at all, and other people are allowed to benefit from it. Okay. Now, from that, we have many questions that come. What happens if it's a bakery? That's his profession. He bakes for people on Shabbat. He's not baking for himself. He is now baking for other people. That'll be one question. What about if the light was turned on in my room? Can I be in the room or no on Shabbat itself? What happens, and here's another true story, which we'll get to it, I think, later. What happens if some poskim hold you're allowed to do it on Shabbat? Okay, someone warmed up. When we get to the case, I'll give you a true story, which happened. I just want to read for you, if I found the Mishnah Berurah, if I find it fast. We said that the reason we are sometimes a bit more lenient with a Jew is because everyone knows that a Jew isn't allowed to do melachot on Shabbat. So no one will come now and ask him, please cook for me on Shabbat. And we have here a good question. What happens if he does it every Shabbat? Okay, he does it every Shabbat. So there's a famous Khatam Sofer. I just want to see if I can read it inside, if I find it very fast. If not, we'll mention it without reading it. Okay. There's an opinion that, let's say we have Reuven, a guy called Reuven, Paul Reuven and Shimon, always they have the people who are chosen as an examples, right? So Reuven, he cooked on Shabbat for himself. I can eat it after Shabbat, right? There is an opinion that if he cooked for me on Shabbat, if he cooked for me, it's as if I cooked on Shabbat, which means I can never eat that piece of food. Okay, so there is an opinion that if he cooked for me, I can never eat that food on Shabbat. So a restaurant, okay, let's go to a restaurant, and we'll see it gets a bit more complicated for a restaurant. A restaurant cooks for himself or for other people? For other people. He cooks for everyone who comes. Okay, everyone who comes, come and eat. So according to that, no one is allowed to benefit or to eat the food on Shabbat. Okay, and not only on Shabbat, never. Okay, if I cook something for myself, I can never eat it. If I cooked for other people, since I did it for them, they can also never eat it. Okay, so if a restaurant made bread on Shabbat, no one can eat that bread forever. Now you can ask, one second, okay, so they can't eat the bread. What about if they made bread on Sunday? Can I have a restaurant that will be a kosher restaurant, but they're open on Shabbat? Can I have the bread on Sunday? He'll get an ashgacha. But let's say the ashgacha isn't a problem. Let's say we have cameras. Let's say we know he's using only kosher ingredients. Okay, if he cooked something on Shabbat, he's open on Shabbat, can I buy something which was made on Sunday? A bakery cooks for everyone. He cooks also for me. A bakery, by definition, he cooks for everyone. What is it? It doesn't matter if they call him or no. As soon as he has the intention of cooking for other people, for them, for Reuven, Shimon, Levi, or the whole world, they aren't allowed to benefit from it forever, according to some poskim. What about if you cook something on Sunday? So what do you think if you cook something on Sunday? Says the Mishnah Berurah, and it's actually a machloket between the poskim. Okay, so there are people who are more lenient. I'm going to say the more stringent opinion, but you should know there are people who are more lenient than that. So for example, in Rav Ovadia, he was more lenient than what I'm saying to you now. I'm bringing you the psak of the Mishnah Berurah, Be'ezrat Hashem, as we said, next week we'll go more into the details. Okay, and says the Mishnah Berurah that the pot now absorbs something which is forbidden. If I now take meat and milk and cook them together in a pot, can I use that pot on Sunday for making bread? No. So the same, if I now took bread, made it on Shabbat, it's like meat and milk. You can't eat it. No one can eat it. Okay, if you cook it for everyone, no one can eat it. If you cook it only for himself, so it's something which is by definition permitted. Everyone can eat it. The person who cooked can't eat it. But if you cook it for everyone, it now became as if it's meat and milk. No one can never eat it. And therefore, the same also what is absorbed in the container is forbidden. It's like meat and milk. So also on Sunday, it will be forbidden. As I mentioned, it's an argument between the poskim. It's a mahloket between the poskim. Some say no. What's absorbed in the pot is fine. Okay, it doesn't. I can use the pot again on Sunday, but I just want to bring the argument in the poskim to see one of the problems we have with restaurants being open on Shabbat, because according to that opinion, which many do follow, especially more in the Ashkenazi world, so if a restaurant is open on Shabbat, so all the pots become now treif, and on Sunday you can't use them because it absorbed something which was cooked on Shabbat. So if I was going about the ideology of being, we want to help people who keep Shabbat, the only way to have a restaurant which is open on Shabbat, if it's really they have all the sets of dishes, including the pots, including everything new, and no restaurant has all the sets of dishes, okay, twice, one for Shabbat and one for the rest of the week. Okay, they might have a few extra plates, they might have a few extra forks, but everything no one has. So that's one of the problems with restaurants open on Shabbat.
Next Wednesday's Tu B'Shvat Seder.
So yeah, and actually also might be in the base. So we'll discuss them on WhatsApp what we do. We'll just mention one more halacha, and then next week we'll go into details. What if someone shecht an animal for a person who's ill? The doctor said he needs now to eat fresh meat from an animal that was shechted right now. The action of shechting, is it permitted on Shabbat or forbidden? Permitted, right? He did it for a sick person. So obviously, also a healthy person can benefit from that and from the shechted animal. He can eat raw meat. Shulchan Aruch says he can eat only the raw meat, he can't eat the cooked meat. And why? Because as soon as we say that everyone can eat a cooked meat, if the sick person needs only one piece of steak, and I know that also healthy people can eat steak, what do I do now? I'll add a few more pieces inside, right? Okay, I'll make 5 pieces of steak. It's for the sick person. He can't eat 5 pieces of steak, right? He can eat only 1 piece. Chazal said, oh no. So therefore, because we are worried, that we are concerned that people will add more meat, so only the sick person can eat, and that's it. Without shame, we'll continue it next week.